Today guys, we're going to be starting a new series on my channel where I'm going to be predicting championship games. I'm going to start it now with 7 game weeks left in the championship season, which is 96 games, and at the end of this season I'm going to give myself a score out of 96, being the ones I got right. Next season I'll do this again, but I'll be doing it for the whole season. So yeah, let's get into predictions. So the first game of the midweek fixtures is going to be Millwall against Swansea at 5 o'clock on Tuesday. Millwall currently sitting 11th on 55 points, while Swansea in 10th on 56, just a place and point above Millwall. Since after lockdown, Millwall haven't really come back the best with it. In the first game back, they lost 3-2 to Derby and drew 0-0 with relegation candidates Barnsley. Whereas Swansea, they started well on the restart with a 3-0 win over Middlesbrough, but then did lose to Luton last time out, 1-0. So for this one, both sides around mid-table, maybe push for playoffs. Both had relatively similar starts back to the season, albeit Swansea's a little bit better. But for this one, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. The next game in midweek is a game between Barnsley and Blackburn, one of 3 6 o'clock kickoffs on Tuesday. Barnsley are currently rock bottom of the Championship on 38 points, whereas Blackburn are up there pushing for playoffs in 9th place on 56 points. Since lockdown, Barnsley have actually come back alright, showing a bit of fight to maybe try and get themselves out of a big hole they are in with regards to relegation. They beat QPR 1-0 on their return, and then last week got a 0-0 draw against Millwall. On the other hand, Blackburn, who are pushing for playoffs maybe, they came back with a strong 3-1 win against Bristol City, who were there and thereabouts with regards to playoff. But then their week after that, they did go and lose 2-0 to Wigan, who are sort of around mid-table. With this one, I think, despite Barnsley are trying to get themselves out of a big hole and and they're showing fight and stuff, I think Blackburn have got too much power for them, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 away win for Blackburn. The next game on our list is Cardiff against Charlton, and just like the Barnsley and Blackburn game, these two teams are at different ends of the table. Cardiff are currently sat in the last playoff spot, 6th on 60 points, and Charlton sitting 18th on 45 points, just 3 points above the relegation zone. Since coming back from lockdown, Cardiff have started excellently well. They beat Leeds 2-0 and beat Preston 3-1. Leeds obviously top of the league, and Preston were in and around the playoffs earlier on. And it's the same with Charlton, really. They've come back and they've picked up two big wins. One against Hull, a 1-0 win, and Hull are down there in the relegation zone as well, so that's an important win for them. And also a 1-0 win against QPR in the London derby, and QPR just sat around mid-table. Although both teams have started very well pre-lockdown, I think Cardiff in a better position than Charlton. And I think Cardiff have more to play for than Charlton, really, because Cardiff want to get back in the Premier League. So for this one, I've gone for a 2-0 home win for Cardiff. The next game is the final 6 o'clock game on Tuesday between Reading and Brentford. Reading currently sat around mid-table, might get pushed into a relegation dogfight if results don't go their way, while they're on 15th on 49 points, whereas they're playing Brentford, who are 3rd and 66 points, pushing for promotion to the Premier League through playoffs or even maybe automatically. Reading, since coming back from lockdown, have not started the greatest. Started off with a 1-1 draw against Stoke, and then last time out they lost 2-1 against Derby. Whereas on the other hand, Brentford have started excellently well, winning 2-0 against Fulham, who are promotion rivals as well. And then again another huge win over West Brom, 1-0, another team pushing for automatic promotion. For this one, I think form shows it, with Brentford obviously coming back with 2 big wins against promotion rivals, and Reading not really starting off the best. I think Brentford will probably cruise through this one, and I'm going to say a 3-0 win for Brentford. Next game is a 6:30 kickoff between Fulham and QPR. QPR currently around mid-table, 14th place on 50 points, and Fulham are sitting in 5th on 64 points. Both teams have started really poorly since the restart. QPR losing 1-0 to Barnsley and 1-0 to Charlton, who are both in and amongst the relegation areas, so poor results for them. And Fulham have lost 2-0 to Brentford and 3-0 to Leeds, who are both big promotion rivals for them, which could hinder their chances of getting playoffs and ultimately trying to get back into the Premier League. With this game, I think both teams have had poor restarts. I don't think form really matters, which ties in with the fact that it is a London derby. And overall, I think Fulham are just a bit stronger on the pitch and have got a better team. So in this one, I think it's going to be a tight affair. So I'm going to predict a 1-0 away win for Fulham. The next game is one of 2 quarter-to-8 kickoffs. This game, the first one is a game between Leeds and Luton. Leeds currently sit top of the table on 74 points, whereas Luton are complete opposite, down the other end of the table in 23rd place on just a mere 39 points. Since the restart, I think Leeds, they came back, they lost 2-0 against Cardiff, who pushed themselves into the playoffs with that win, but then did bounce back last time out with a 3-0 win against promotion rivals Fulham. On the other hand, Luton, since the restart, they've started okay with a 1-1 draw against Preston, who are up near the top of the table, or were at least, and then a 1-0 win over Swansea, who are in and around mid-table. I think this just comes down, not really to form, but just who has the stronger team, because they both started similarly since the restart. And I think just Leeds, they'll have high morale after that 3-0 win against Fulham. So I think Leeds will win this one quite comfortably with 2-0. On to the last game on Tuesday, which is between Wigan and Stoke. Wigan currently sitting 17th on 47 points, just 5 points above the relegation zone, and Stoke are in 20th on 43, just a point above the relegation zone. Despite Wigan being only 5 points above the drop, I think they'll be safe because they're on great form at the minute. Since restarting the season, they've beat Huddersfield 2-0, who are in and amongst the relegation fight themselves, and 2-0 win over Blackburn, who were fighting for promotion, but are now dropped down towards around mid-table. Meanwhile, Stoke, on the other hand, have not started as great, with a 1-1 draw against Reading and a 2-0 loss against Middlesbrough. With this one, I think Wigan beating on great form, Stoke not really. I think Wigan will win this one, and I think they'll win it by 3-1. On to the first of the Wednesday night games, where we start with Preston against Derby at 5 o'clock. Preston are in 7th place on 57 points. Derby are just a place below in 8th, but are tied on points with 57 also. Since the restart, Preston have started poorly, really, matching their form just before lockdown when they lost 3 in a row. Since lockdown has stopped and football has returned, they drew 1-1 against Luton Town, who are down in 23rd place, so a poor result for them, and lost 3-1 against promotion rivals Cardiff. Whereas on the other hand, Derby, they beat Millwall 3-2 and beat Reading 2-1, so they've had a very good start back in since lockdown. And I think for this one, going on the form, Preston are in a bit of a slump and Derby are on a real high, so I'm going to go for a 3-0 win for Derby. Moving on to the first of 2 6 o'clock kickoffs on the Wednesday, we start off with Birmingham against Huddersfield. Birmingham are in 16th place on 49 points, whereas Huddersfield are down near the relegation zone in 22nd place on only 42 points. Since the restart, Birmingham have drawn both their games, a 0-0 draw, a respectable 0-0 draw against second place West Brom, and a 3-3 draw against Hull last weekend. Whereas on the other hand, Huddersfield have lost both their games, a 2-0 against Wigan and a 3-1 loss against Forest. I think this could be a tight game. Both teams have not started the greatest, but Birmingham have got the better form. And they did complete a very good comeback against Hull. They were 2-0 down at one point. So I think regarding this one, I think Birmingham will edge it. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Birmingham. On to the final 6 o'clock game on Wednesday between Nottingham Forest and Bristol City. Forest currently sitting in a respectable 4th position on 64 points, pushing for those playoff spaces and hopefully a chance to get to the Premier League. Whereas Bristol, who were in amongst around Forest at one point in the season, now sit in a lowly 12th position around mid-table with just 55 points. Since the restart, Forest have drawn against my team, Sheffield Wednesday, and got a win over Huddersfield, whereas Bristol have lost both their games, a 3-1 loss against Blackburn and a 2-1 loss against my team Wednesday. I think with regards to the Wednesday game, they didn't really get going enough until late on when they scored with that through Naki Wells, but it was a little too late, and I think it'll be a similar case in this game, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Forest. On to the final Wednesday night game, which is a 7:45 kickoff between my team Sheffield Wednesday and West Brom. My team Wednesday, they sit in 13th place on 52 points, whereas West Brom are in second place on 71 points. Since the restart, I think my team Wednesday we've started quite well compared to what we were doing before the lockdown. Obviously, we ended the season before the lockdown with a 5-0 thrashing against Brentford, but since football's restarted, I think we'll bounce back quite well. 1-1 draw against Forest with a late goal from Wickham. It was completely deserved draw, and then obviously a 2-1 win over Bristol, hard fought and well deserved. On the other hand, West Brom have not started the greatest. A 0-0 draw against Birmingham to mark their restart in the Championship, and then a 1-0 loss against promotion rivals Brentford. I think with regards to this one, we're on Wednesday on a bit better form, and West Brom, who are still a very strong side, are up and around the top of the table, haven't started as great. I think with this one, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw, which I think is fair, with West Brom not being on the best form, and we're kind of on a roll at the minute. To the final prediction and final midweek game, which is at Thursday at 5 o'clock between Hull and Middlesbrough. Hull are down near the bottom of the table in 21st place on 42 points, and Middlesbrough are quite close to them in the table, only 19th place and on 44 points. Since the restart, Hull, they've started not really the greatest, with a 1-0 loss against Charlton and then a 3-3 draw against Birmingham, in which they're in a great position, 2-0 ahead, and managed to bottle it and lose. Middlesbrough, really, they started alright, a 3-0 loss against Swansea to restart the campaign, which didn't look too great, but then they managed to pull it back with a 2-0 win over Stoke. I think with this one, Hull being on really poor form, and I don't think they've won since only once this year in 2020, which was against my team Wednesday on the New Year's Day. So I think Hull have probably got low morale. They've not started that great back, and Middlesbrough on the back of a big win against Stoke. So I think with this one, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Middlesbrough, who I think are just going to nick it there. Like a Hellcat.